Looks like we're live. We'll roll in three, two, one. Hey everyone, and welcome to Functional Meatheads. I'm Mark DeSalvo.
And I'm Froilan Sanchez.
And doesn't Froy sound truly Casey Kasem-esque with his new microphone?
Crisp and clear.
Crisp and clear, yeah.
My new
Crisp
old,
and
my
clear
new
through
old
a,
microphone.
crisp and clear through a radio. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. But thanks for joining us for another week. I think we took off last week, didn't we? We kind of had a week.
Yeah, we had a week.
Yeah, and that was because and a lot of inconsistent.
It's better to come back and recalibrate.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been a project of mine, and I can jump right into it, was me studying and going for the CSCS certification, which I passed last week. So
Congratulations.
yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was a lot of sacrifice, a lot of. I mean, it's hard. I mean, a lot of maybe someone who went to school for kinesiology would scoff at that or whatever, but I didn't go to school for kinesiology. I went to school for journalism and history. So, and much like Freud, everything we know about training and whatnot is self-taught. So I was putting myself through 101, maybe 102 level courses of, anatomy, biomechanics, physiology, endocrinology, all that stuff, and then learning a philosophy on training on top of that I had to synthesize, and as you know through this show, just sit and kind of marry. Like, in other words, when I'm taking the test, I don't want to recall someone else's training theory, and answer the question incorrectly. But anyway, it's over. It took the better part of 10 months, I think, to
Wow, really? I didn't even think about that.
yeah, almost.
Dang, dude, that's
10 or 11.
craziness.
Yeah,
That's
it
craziness.
is. I think I started it in March of 2014. So,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, obviously there was, if you subtract a few months off, I probably took about 7 to 8 because there was there was one point where I took about a month or two off. So,
Yeah.
I probably could have done it sooner. But Fry and I have a lot going on, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's
But
not
the
like you
one,
weren't. It's not like you weren't doing other things. You were starting a business, a separate business. You were learning new. You're always learning training in general, even on your own.
yeah, exactly. And
And you're learning jujitsu, so it's actually a good thing. But it's a good thing
uh-oh, I think I
a
lost
little
you.
bit out of balance for a while, and you knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying, I'm sorry,
You
repeat that
there?
because the
I said you were you were a little bit out of balance for a while, but you recognized it, So it's
and
just a
that's yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I brought it up as just a quick project of sorts because
Mhm.
um I you're absolutely right. I knew I was out of balance. I knew I was kind of on teetering over and behind the red line.
Yeah.
And that's not a good way to live if you're doing that every day with no end in sight. That I almost did the last 6 weeks of preparation for that test like a periodized program. I planned it to the day. I
Yeah.
had a schedule that every day. This is what I'm doing today.
It's like
So
training for a marathon.
it was absolutely that. And if you have a goal in your life, you're going to have to do that if you're someone who's busy, if you have kids or other commitments, whatever, that you're going to have to look ahead because you're always going to be able to use the excuse of I'm too busy, I got this, I got that. Like, you're going to have to periodize it for yourself. You can apply these principles to just everyday life, and that was what I had to do. And I realized I was out of balance, but the two biggest things were un like unwavering ability to sleep as a normal person should in a healthy way, and always make an hour to myself a day at least, like meditation type time, shut down, like not talking to anyone, not letting myself wander into the books or anything else, just
Yeah.
shut down. And that really kept me from kind of going over the edge. And but it's not something I could have done for much longer than 6 weeks. So I would say that if you feel like you're living like that every day, that you might need to peel back something or figure out how to end something that's causing a big
Yeah.
is a monolith in your life in a very negative way.
No, I agree. I think it was it's a good metaphor or analogy to someone who wants to lose. They come to want to be. I want to be trained. I need a trainer.
Right.
We get the same people. I want to lose weight. Okay, I'm only going to be able to work out 2 times a week. I'm going to lose weight based on that model. Nope, not. So you're basically going to get out of balance for about a month. If
Hmm.
you're really serious about losing weight, you want to get everything on track, you're going to be out of balance for at least a month if you take it seriously. What does that mean? That means, okay, I'm going to have to make time to work out with a professional 2 hours a week minimum, 2 to 3 other times myself. And I'm not saying lifting weights every day. I'm saying a balanced movement schedule, where you're getting good health. I'm going to have to make time. I probably don't cook for myself. I'm going to have to make time to go to the market. I'm going to have to, you're so you're going to be out of balance with your old routine, but you're going to be more in balance with yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you were learning a bunch of new stuff, and all you were doing was stepping into the new future you, but you were out of balance with the old I don't know this stuff you like, it's kind of like a play on time.
Yeah, yeah, I was in the present, and there was, yeah, definitely. I was putting myself mentally in the future, but one activity I always kept in line for myself, and this might be real old school, but I said, no, I wouldn't let myself visualize success, life after, whatever. I was like, no, this is what you're doing now. It was the ultimate presentness, you know?
Yeah.
I actually, I was thinking a lot about theories on psychological success and people who say like visualize winning, visualize victory, that you're the best. Like I don't respond to that. I learned that I'm quite the opposite. I have to focus on what I'm doing now.
So it's more of a in the moment type thing, which is good, which is good. It's dangerous to think about the future because nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but you can have a feeling about it. You know what I mean? Like I intuitively knew you were gonna pass the test. So when you were stressing out, I'm like, don't worry about it, man. You're gonna do it. That's what I always try to tell people. It's like you don't know the future, but you know you have a goal. So if you're you can either be super worried about the goal or you can be super chill about the goal. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen either way. So
Right.
the excess energy that's being put towards I'm gonna freak out is actually just taking it's like eating McDonald's because all it is taking more emotional energy away from you when you can
Absolutely.
be redirecting that energy in a more positive way elsewhere. Um, so yeah, I mean it was a good thing for you to happen in your life because now I'm thinking like if you dedicated 10 months of something very strict, very I mean other than the 2 months you took off, but you actually had a setback earlier too, so you actually you know what I mean you overcame some stuff, so it's actually good. Don't
Yeah.
don't you can always carry this in your confidence pile and not have to worry about it. So
Well, I appreciate that. And it's funny because as you were saying that too, and this was something I realized that gave me a lot of confidence as well, but I in 10 months I earned my blue belt in jiu-jitsu and
that's right. Wow.
yeah, and technically it was 11, but I was out for 2 months with an injury and I saw I got it in 9 months of practice and it took me by complete surprise. I didn't expect it. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just thinking about how I get back to being able to do something healthy and injury free, and was floored by it. And I thought to myself, at first I was thinking to myself, "There's no, you made a mistake. Yeah, I haven't been here that long, whatever, et cetera, et cetera." But then I thought to myself, well, no, I mean, these guys thought that I'm at that level. I'm at that level, and uh, that just kind of changed my brainwaves. So I started behaving almost differently in class, of just having a little bit more confidence, uh, being more. I've always been very thoughtful in my practice of the sport, but I was able to kind of free my brain up a little bit of, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Of more of, okay, I know this. How can I optimize this? And that was the attitude I started applying to my test, or the preparation for that test, is that you know this,
Yeah, it's
it's
good. It's good stuff.
yeah,
It's a deeper level of mindfulness for your mind as well as the physical part of the jiu-jitsu. You're not. that that unbalanced mind of like, oh, like you're thinking, am I doing this movement? Because it's your body speaking a language, jujitsu especially. You just don't know that language yet because
Right.
you're learning it. So it doesn't do any good to be like, oh, am I losing it? Am I not losing it? Am I doing this move right? Am I not doing this right? Well, once I do this move multiple times, I'm going to get a feeling for it, and then I'm going to get a feeling for other moves that link into it. You're going to get that it's like going from a squat, bodyweight squat to a jumping squat and learning like not don't pound the ground when you land, just land softly. You kind of get it.
Right.
So, and it goes out into everything in this world. It's like the Mushashi code. Once you learn one way somewhere, I'm always looking to learn different things in different disciplines like architecture, jujitsu, even from listening to conversations with you.
Yeah.
And
Know the
just
way broadly, and you will see it in all things.
there you go, exactly. Like
Yeah.
just understand how things work, the nature of these things, and you'll see it. It's pretty much balanced everywhere out in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but yeah, absolutely. I
No, it works that way. There's fireworks going on. Is there something going on today? I have fireworks outside my window.
I have no idea.
It's like it's
Maybe
not even. It's like probably like 85th Street. It's kind of weird.
interesting. I wonder, is there when's Chinese New Year?
I thought it was the 19th. I think it's the 19th.
Of February?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they're getting early.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Getting
tripping me out. It looks like an invasion. It's very pretty though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw you looking out. I was wondering if someone was at the
It's
door
so
or what was
weird.
going
No, no,
on.
that's the window. It's actually very nice, but it's not tall enough for me to see anything, so I just get the tail end. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
that's a good project though. Like it's one of those ones that taxes the soul. Like it's like, okay, who are you? Who are you? What are you made of? I was listening to this. Could be actually help with the topic, something off the topic.
Hmm.
I might do a switcheroo on you.
Go ahead.
This
Share your
guy,
project, whatever you
I
want.
was listening. Okay, just like I said, I love listening to weird stuff. So I went through my podcast and I'm like, okay, let me get something different. So I found a food podcast and I learned how to make an awesome omelet, which I did not know a lot of these things. Um, and then I listened to a podcast about OCD, a guy who wrote a book about OCD. And I
Hmm.
was like, all right, let me see, because everybody says they have OCD. I want to know what it is. He had a weird one though. He had OCD about getting HIV because he grew up in the 80s.
Ooh.
And so like he would be at like a swim park and scratch his leg on a step and then start just like you said the mind would start working like, oh my god, was there blood on that step? Did it get into my blood? And then it started this whole crazy cascade of like, do I have HIV? Do I have AIDS?
Right.
Anyways, the reason why I say this, they started also talking about stuff that goes on the mind, and I forgot what they call it, but just voices where you're like, say you're waiting for the subway, right? And then you have this, as it's pulling in, you have this random thought like, I'm gonna jump in front of the subway. I forgot what they call that, but it has a certain phrase to it.
Ooh, that's morbid, but yeah.
But you know you're not gonna do it. It's just you're completely rational. You're just something in like a weird part of your brain goes, I'm gonna jump in front of the train. You're not
Right,
even
right.
thinking death. You're just thinking something's happening, and then I'm gonna jump in front of the train. It's weird, and people do it all the time for other stuff. Like I'm just gonna yell the F word in this Whole Foods really really loud.
Yeah.
Just these weird, like, I forgot what they call them. It's pissing me off, but these random phrases that go into your head, and you're like, well, that's not me. I know I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But they got into this really deep philosophical argument about, and without meaning to, he said, okay, so the real danger happens when you start giving those voices power. And he's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, what do you mean? When you modify your behavior for those voices, that's when you get in trouble. So what that means is, say you're waiting for the subway, you stand right in front of the yellow line because you're cool, nobody's gonna push you, you checked it out, everything, you're good. But let's just say that voice comes in randomly and you're like, oh, so what you do is if you take a step back or 2 or 3 steps back because of that voice, you've now modified your behavior. So you've given that voice credence. You know what I mean? And so that I was walking on Union Square listening to that part and I stopped and I rewound it. I'm like, okay, wait, that's pretty deep. Because think about how many things in your life, let's say you went up and talked to a girl and you got big time rejected, right?
Hmm.
So then extrapolate like a year later, you that hurt, so like you go, oh, I'm gonna talk to this girl, and then you're like, oh, a voice in your head goes, nope, you're gonna get rejected, and then you take those three steps back and you don't do it. You've
Right.
modified your behavior. So the danger of like modifying your behavior, even from something, for example, he doesn't. You don't know the future. You don't know if that girl's gonna reject another girl's in the future is gonna reject you again. But you're modifying your behavior because of some sort of fear.
Well,
You've
that's
lost.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
many would. I mean, that's your ego, and many would call you. Many would say that that's the human adaptation. Like that's the human advantage. Because, in other words,
Advantage or disadvantage?
well, it's interesting. I mean, because you pose an interesting question. I'll give you the other side of that. A lot of people would say that the reptilian brain would be the one that would say, yeah, do this, do that, do this, do that, and that it's the rational mind that is able to filter through these things. So you're right. In the case of trying to talk to an attractive woman or man, it would work against you because you shouldn't doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're modifying your behavior potentially negatively. If you're thinking of it on a very like bare bones evolutionary scale, you're limiting your ability to find a mate, which is bad. You know, like
Yeah.
that's bad adaptation. But if your reptilian brain is telling you to do something stupid, like your human brain needs to kick
Someone
in and tell you,
chain.
yeah, your human brain needs to kick in. But I think the way you're talking about it, you're much more. That's a much more Zen type
Well,
of
well,
thought.
you've tied in the it's different. It's a different, but I feel it's the same. I agree with you because I know what
Yeah.
you're gonna say. It's like the other one's an irrational thought. I'm gonna jump in front of the train and you modify your behavior. The other one, you actually have a track record where it's like, oh, um, girl, I'm attracted to her. I'm gonna talk to her. I get rejected. A year later, girl, I'm attracted to her. I'm gonna talk to her. Nope. You modify your behavior.
Right.
But there's an emotion attached to the talking to the girl because you don't want to deal with the emotions, you don't want to deal with the rejection, blah blah blah.
Right.
So I started thinking just in general behavior, and how we modify it, and then the silent ones where, well, what's the power of the voices in our head versus the power of our will versus the power of our emotions versus just the maelstrom of hormones we deal with, everything that goes on, and how can you overcome those? How can you overcome those on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a random basis? How can you overcome? For example, you brought up your jujitsu example, right? It took the confidence of getting to another level for you to kind of get over that hump, and now you're kind of cruising and sailing, right? Like you're good. And same thing with me. Like when you're first a new trainer, you're kind of like on thin ice, and you're like, oh, maybe I don't know everything, maybe I can't handle every situation, and the only thing you can do is just plug away, plug away, plug away, and then now
Right.
you get to a point where it's like old hat. You just come in, you already know. There's nothing really anybody can throw at you because you've seen so much.
Mm-hmm.
You just get to that level where now you've taken out, you've taken behavior out of the equation because you've modified yourself in a good way by progressing forward and forward and forward and forward.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean to use the jujitsu example, you kind of have a lot to prove when you're a white belt, and not that you have a lot to prove. I think you put a lot on yourself because you want to prove to people I am a good training partner. I can do this, especially when you're later in the stages. So there's always that thing of like I'm not the complete newbie. I'm not the lowest on the food chain. I'm not the lowest on the
Yeah.
I'm not the low on the totem pole, in other words. So when you get promoted and when you're not a white belt anymore, you can suddenly free your brain and say, "Oh, okay, I don't have to prove that anymore." And people know that at least, I passed the 101 course. Now it's from here. I got to do the whole dissertation. I got to get the PhD, but that's going to take a while. But you got past your first year, kid, and I think that I can't remember what you were saying just before that, but that was my long way of saying I agree with you, the
Yeah.
example. But
Well,
I th-
go ahead.
mhm. No, but I think I think there is a lot of value though in being able to find. The reason I bring up that story or try to paint that picture is there's a lot of value in trying to find your blue belt. In other words, your ability to kind of silence that voice. So in other words, you can take for granted that you know you're not going to get yourself killed. So in other words, if you're going to use the talking to the potential mate thing, you know, you can silence past failures because that would be irrational, unless of course you got stabbed or something. Uh, you can silence that and operate. It's kind of like the example my mom told me when I was playing hockey when I was younger. She would take me to the rink all the time. This is when I was a real little kid. So I would skate and learn to skate because she said when you learn how to skate, you can start to think about the game because then skating will just be like walking. So you won't have to think about skating and getting to the puck. And then when you're able to get to like a Siddhartha level of hockey is like Wayne Gretzky of I'm going to where the puck's going to be. He's not thinking about skating or what's going on now. He's thinking about what happens after that. And I think you can apply that to life because there is the point where you're the little kid, the mite as they call him, learning to skate. And then there is the point where you learn to skate and you become pretty adept at the game, hopefully by you're in your JV varsity years. But then very few, only the ones who are willing to put in the time of themselves, they get to the point where they see where the puck is going to be.
Yeah, I
Which,
agree. I think it's if you go through life and you expect people to explain things to you every single step of the way, you're never going to get to the point where you want to be because there's always going to be a point where somebody needs to help you.
right.
I was reading a self-help book 20 years ago, and they said you can't move forward until you realize nobody's coming to save you. Like, you know what I mean? It's just you, and it's not as bleak as it sounds. It's just more like, hey, learn to rely on yourself in a
Absolutely.
good way. You can always ask for help. You can always ask for explanation. And it took me until my age where I'm like thinking, okay, even these experts don't know everything. They don't talk to other experts, but they could be so much better if they stole and synthesized and kind of melded all these things together because there's no one thing that's the perfect one thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, you learn to ask when you realize that no one's going to ever explain everything to you and always come to your rescue. You learn to ask better questions. Like
True.
you,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. You get a deeper understanding because you start to say, all right, well, no one's going to show me how to do this,
Yeah.
but all right, I can teach myself. And then you teach yourself a lot. And then that time, it's that intersection of luck and skill that
Mhm.
and the time you've put in. Your luck is your chance meeting with someone who is elite at something that you're trying to be good at, and you can say to them, if it's jujitsu, for example, if you're working, if you live in like Nebraska and there's no black belts in Nebraska, but you're working with these like bunch of purple belts who are very good, and you're trying to understand a certain type of guard, you keep working it, you watch videos, you do whatever, but you can't quite figure out these certain things. That moment when you get to talk to Marcelo Garcia, you could say, hey, wait, do you put your foot here? Because when I do this, this happens. When I do this happens. A person who didn't work on that themselves wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Or it means more when you learn it.
Exactly. And you can apply that to anything. I'm sorry to keep using sport examples, but that's where my brain's
No, I
been.
mean, we just use what comes naturally to us, training
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything else. But I think it's more, you could describe to anybody the best foods and the best things to eat, but until they feel like, don't eat that bagel, because you'll never know what it feels like to not have inflammation, because that's the new normal for you, you know?
Right.
There's, it all comes down to the mind, but it also comes down to how do you cultivate that mind, and how are you thinking about that mind, and how are you moving forward with that mind? And then that even relates to food, like the stuff we were originally going to talk about. Is like, okay, funny thing, food and porn in a way. And I hate saying it because I was reading that one article we were talking about, and it says, well, the thing with food is if you become a foodie, eventually the same foods don't arouse you, don't do the same for you. You eventually have to find richer foods or more exotic foods or more
Right.
um, whatever savory, sweet, whatever thing you have. And that's
Hmm.
the same thing as porn. They said, TED Talk was talking about how the decline of man is that porn is an arousal thing. So you don't understand what you're doing by watching porn because you get so bored or inured to what you're watching that you have to escalate it. Okay, what's next? What's this? Same thing with food, and I think we see it in New York a lot with people that are foodies. They
Oh
just
yeah.
get really into like, okay, new restaurant, next restaurant's opening, and that's really what it is. Like oh, there's a new restaurant, we got to go to the new place, we got to go to this new place, we got to go to this. Well, there's a new workout place. What's it? Oh, rowing machines, and it's like Soul Cycle. Okay, we got to go there. Like
You're always
it's
looking for what's better, which is, or not necessarily what's better. It's just a tendency to escalate.
yeah, and you're not really getting healthy because you're not really giving the time to the things like, oh, this yoga actually makes me feel really good. No, it's like, oh, what are we doing next week? Okay, we're gonna go do Soul Cycle. We're gonna do fitting room. We're gonna do all these other busyness things. But if you start off from a basis of, no, I gave yoga about 3 months and I felt really, really good, or I felt really, really bad. I gave Soul Cycle 3 months and I ended up having more injuries than but I was super skinny. Was I healthy? All that stuff. So something to think about. Something to focus on, and I think most people would kind of you know learn to modify, learn to listen to the voices in your head, turn them off by meditating if there are too many of them, but learn to start questioning how you modify your behavior, even if it's just a habit that you have or a habit that you're trying to break. Start that internal dialogue of, okay, am I changing my what's going on here? Who's in charge? What's going on with my desires, my will? What do I want to do? Am I modifying my behavior to keep these habits? Am I not willing to get out of balance a little bit just to kind of focus intently on something that I want to do? Because essentially, if there's a goal that you want and you feel like you're out of balance getting into it, are you really out of balance getting to it in a way? Or do you just have, or do you just need to drop some stuff that's not, and then get back in balance? And then technically you were not out of balance. I don't know. It's a deep philosophical argument where you're like, okay,
No, I see what you're getting at.
yeah, yeah. It's just a matter of repositioning things because I think that as humans we always want to do a zillion things, da, 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 and then you definitely get out of balance, and then you just say, oh fuck it, and then you're like, I'm not gonna do any of it.
Yeah, and
I've
you
gone
don't
through
get
phases
anywhere.
like that with the piles of books in my desk going, I'm not gonna read anything. You know?
Right. Well, that's when you get kind of it when you set the balance of having goals is not living too much in the future.
Yeah.
It's because that's dangerous. I mean, if especially if you buy into concepts of mindfulness and certain meditation, which we do, I do,
Yeah.
that if goals are things you need to have, they're things that help, are things to move towards. They give you purpose. But if you live too much, that you can have too many goals or too much goal,
Yeah.
because then you lose the
I like that.
presentness.
I want a T-shirt that says "too much goal"
Yeah, too much goal. I'm writing that down.
in a
Um,
Russian accent.
too much goal.
My
But
problem is I have too much goal.
but the
No,
funny,
I think.
but
Yeah, go ahead.
that's dangerous though, and that was why really during my studying time, and I talked about the psychology of it, is that I could not picture myself, and I didn't want to picture myself as a blue belt or as a CSCS. It was, what am I doing now to get there? You have the stated goal. I want to move up in rank. I want to get to CSCS. What do you have to do now? And then
Yeah.
and I think that's at least for me, that was a healthy balance of goal because, or goals, healthy balance of goal that the the problem became or can become that, like you said, you're doing all these sort of weird things that take you out of balance when in the first place you really weren't that far out of balance. It's
Yeah. It's just a shifting of reality of like, all right, what I want in my reality, this. And I think,
and also a thankfulness and a gratefulness for what you have.
and that's an intuitive emotional nature where you're like, I'm gonna do this. It's just a matter of me getting this done. You know.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that, and I think as Americans, we have a hard concept with all this because of the concept of time, age, time. I should be this by the time I'm 40. I should have this by the time
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
65. I should have this amount. And I think what really throws everybody off is like when you go on vacation, and if it's a really good vacation, meaning no emails, you basically wake up when you want, you go to bed when you want, and then you're basically regulated by the sun if you go to a place that's nice. You're kind of just like, oh, I'm just gonna chill on the beach, because you basically get back to the way we're supposed to live in a way, obviously with a little bit less responsibility, but you basically are in the moment, like, oh, I'm just reading a magazine on the beach. I don't have to get this email to Bob by 7:30 or 5 p.m. I don't have to file this by this. You're basically living. So basically the question we ask is, as our animalistic instincts or our baser instincts, we're just supposed to wake up, salvage, get food, get shelter, those the basic needs we've talked about before on older podcasts, and then get rest, so we can
Right.
do the same things every day. The concepts get all jacked up when we have goals and focus, and then too much and friends, and then not repositioning ourselves as best we can to have that balance. And again,
Right.
playing with the term balance. Well, I'm gonna have to get out of balance to get into balance with what I want to achieve. You know,
Yeah. I
if you
mean,
change nothing, nothing will change.
and just to add to that, because I don't think I could have said it better, is that chances are that your life right now was designed by a guy who was trying to build cars really well.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
8 hour workday, 5 days a week. That was for guys who built cars and
Yeah,
had
Monday through Friday, 8 to
that.
5.
That wasn't for whatever. That wasn't for your HR job, your accounting, whatever. He wasn't. He didn't care about that. He cared about getting Model Ts on the road, and that was how he
Yeah.
was going to do it.
And
And
then he had some bunk ass study that proved that was better, and then everybody took on, and then
yeah,
it's like,
well, it
go ahead.
it happened in the '90s too because you saw companies like Google or even maybe later than the '90s too, and in the 2000s, you saw these tech companies who they didn't really have work days, but they all tended to work 14-hour days because these guys loved code. They just lived in front of the
Well,
screen.
I think
And
they found out that if you don't put all these restrictions on people, they'll take less vacation.
right,
If
but
you
what
give
I
them unlimited vacation, they end up taking less vacation.
exactly, but the point I was going to make is that the rest of the working world saw the tech guys just constantly working, and they began to try to implement that for themselves. So the Goldman Sachs and the bankers of the world and the information whatever services, they began to do that for their companies. Or became the normal. Issue the Blackberries, issue everything because
Yeah.
you need to be available just like those Facebook guys were. The difference with the Facebook guys is that it was a bunch of bros living in a house in California that smelled like stale pizza, and they just
Yeah.
fucking loved it.
No, yeah.
They
It's
weren't
it's
wearing they weren't wearing suits and going on the 4 train at rush hour and wanting to kill themselves.
Yeah, it's a weird world we live in. Like I told you, a lot of models. We've always talked about models that are broken. The keyboard model, why the letters on your laptop are positioned a certain way was because of some some old outdated machine that nope. There's kids that have never even seen one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's ridiculous that we have that's what exists instead of maximizing. It's so weird that we have these things because nobody's put thought into it and they seem so simple when you think about it. And the health model is just like that.
Absolutely.
Test the blood, test this, test that. It's just ridiculous. They're going to come out with new guidelines for cholesterol because now it's not a nutrient of concern, which is, wait, there's millions of billions of dollars have been made on
Billions.
freaking people out about cholesterol,
Where's this?
giving
Yeah,
them.
yeah. What was the article? Send me that because you and I were talking about that over the weekend.
It was a study I saw on CBS News this morning. The articles haven't come out yet because they haven't formally written it hasn't come out in the journal, but everybody read the journal already, and they said that essentially, cholesterol is going to be seen as something that not a nutrient of concern. So all this huge basis of drugs and everything else that we've been living off of. I can't tell you how many times I've told people to eat pasture-raised eggs, and I get, well, I have high cholesterol. And this is
Yeah.
something we talked about when it related personally to you. But it's just a matter of, you don't have to deal with this stuff when you have that level of mindfulness we were talking about 10 minutes ago, where it's like, I am not going to allow somebody to teach me everything because that's their experience, and it's not wrong. I'm not going to say it's not wrong, but my body might just be different than your body. I might be able to handle fat better. I might be able to handle fruit better. I might be able to handle bread better.
Yeah.
All these possibilities exist, but remember that we're sensitive creatures in the sense that if we get a belief stuck in our head, it's hard to get it rid of, even if it goes against us, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's something to consider, when you're thinking about your habits, the way you behave, and how you, what you, essentially what you, if there's things that you're not doing for whatever reason that you should be doing, why is your behavior like that? You know?
Right.
I know when it's cold outside, I have a really hard time not eating carbs, you know? It's really, really tough for me, and it's just I've rationalized certain things around it, and now I know my behaviors, and this is a good thing for me to step back and say, look, I don't need that slice of bread or whatever that I'm trying to kind of work my way around. I can kind of use my willpower to get out of it, or find certain things to go from there. So I'm modifying my behavior in a good way. So it's just a matter of recognizing that it's a pattern, because now it's a pattern. I've modified behavior before if I ever gave in to something, but now recognizing it's a pattern, and going from there. There was a good article about this Kenyan runner in the Austin Marathon. She hit the wall so bad that she had to finish the marathon on her hands and knees because she wouldn't
Oh,
quit.
right.
And
Wow.
they said this before: don't quit, because the runners especially don't quit, and don't walk, because if you ever do walk, it's every single time it gets hard, it's going to be so much easier to walk
Right.
than to quit. In
Absolutely.
general, so you kind of have to. This is when you're a kid and your parents like, nope, you got to stick with this.
Right.
And it's not because it might be the worst thing that you're sticking to, but just the fact that you stuck with it and got it done is a sense of accomplishment, you know?
Yeah. It's a what would you call it?
It's a
You
test of
even
your
you
character.
didn't.
It says something about your
Right.
character and your
Exactly.
mindset.
Exactly. Tenacity is the word I was looking for.
She's got tenacity.
I wasn't thinking that, but yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
So yeah, that's good though. Lots of heady concepts today, so play with it. Marinate on this.
This is true. I like all of these things.
Somebody needs to invent an app so when you're listening to podcasts, I'm gonna give a free idea away. It's just a button you push and it records. You can set the setting to I want to record the last 30 seconds, the last 10 seconds, the last 15 seconds. Because sometimes some people say some really good stuff and I want to save it and then just listen to all the good stuff that I listened to all week. You
Yes,
know,
you
like
get like an overload of good of
yeah,
positives. Yeah.
I'm like nobody has this, so somebody invent that, please. Let me know.
Yeah. No, I was listening
Or like when Rogan, like the guy mentions a book and I want to, what book is that? I want to save it. You know.
right, exactly. I was what was it? Duncan Trussell has been putting on, if you're into mindfulness, he's been putting on a lot of really good mindfulness oriented podcasts in the past month. And he had I can't remember who his guest was that in that particular instance, but they were talking about some mind blowing concepts of mindfulness. He had Alex Gray and his wife on. Uh,
Nice.
Great interview too, and that was really cool. And I remember I wrote down a bunch just kind of in this journal I carry with me most places, and I kept looking at it that week. It was under my list of things to do this week. At the top, it was just what they said, and because I liked that, it resonated with me. So
No,
that app would streamline that.
yeah. And I guess you'd have three buttons on there, and you can just red, blue, or green. Red is like last minute, last 5 minutes, whatever. You can adjust those things and go from there. Because sometimes, like between Saturday and today, I've probably listened to four really good things, and I remember two of them, and I used them in this podcast. So I wonder what gets lost in my brain and where it goes. But you know what? It's just a matter of constantly pushing your boundaries of your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-oh, did you lag out
Where
there?
the
Oh,
That's where
there.
the final I cut out there.
Yeah, that's okay. You
Just
can.
just find a way to thread everything together, because that's where the way you'll live your best life. It's not just one, oh, I'm a super mind. I see everybody reading new articles, reading books, but their posture is really bad, and they're just super overweight, but they're a really great nice person and everybody likes them, but and there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but they there's something missing where they're not in balance, and they need to get in balance just for the sake that they're a good person, and we need more people like that.
Yeah, It's funny you say that at the end because there's a lot of times that I think that there's. I just see people I don't even know, and I always think to myself, and I don't mean this in a condescending or on my cloud kind of way, but there's a type of thing like I see all beautiful people around me, and I mean that. Like even if people are have this or that wrong with them, but then I see that like whatever they might have going on, like oh man,
Yeah,
that guy or she looks like she has a great energy and is a very beautiful person, but she very
yeah,
clearly has some type of something going on, you know?
yeah.
Uh,
And
and
I wasn't fat shaming. I meant
no,
in the
no,
sense
not at
that
all.
I meant in the sense that they come and they want to lose weight, and then they're like, okay, here's the plan, and then it just cannot implement for whatever reason. Um, but they're great people, and you got to be like, okay, well, you really want this, and you really got to focus on this, and the way you and I as trainers, we see somebody who's overweight the same as somebody who wants to build muscle
Right,
in this like in a detached kind of okay, how do I achieve this goal kind of way.
right,
I'm not judging one person or the other. I've learned to not judge that person. I've
right.
learned to be okay, this person has a goal and it's a physical goal, and then this other person has a goal and it's a physical goal. So it's they're both neutral to me. So I guess that's why concepts of like when I talk about somebody being overweight or something like that, it's just a goal to achieve. And I don't get me wrong, I do believe there's some severe emotional tied into both of them.
Oh yeah,
But when I talk about it as a trainer, I really just okay, this person has a goal. How do I get them at their goal?
absolutely.
So no fat shaming ever.
No, absolutely not. Because I like doing this podcast and I don't want to get flamed every time we do it.
It almost seems like the word fat is like a bad word to use now.
Yeah, no, it is.
Like, what if you just
Definitely.
overweight is the new word, or obese? Obese is not good anymore, right? I don't know.
I don't
It's
know, but
confusing.
then you're like not supposed to point it out though, you know? Like I
No.
have there's people that I'm close to in my life who are obese and they're very and they're just awesome people. They're beautiful people. Kind of to piggyback what you were saying is like, you know, actually, I'm not even going to go down that tangent. The one I was going to go down that you brought up, like you said, that you'll have these clients who are just great people and they're trying to lose weight, but sometimes the more well-adjusted you are, if you have like a fatal flaw, so say you are some very well-adjusted person with a very high sense of self-esteem and whatever, but you are overweight, or you do have some type of problem that you would come see Froy and I for. Sometimes you can be the hardest nut to crack because uh, you're not going to respond to like a certain bit of like disgust or whatever because you don't self-deprecate. You know, you're not going to look at yourself and be like, oh, God damn it. Like, because I know people in my life who that was their motivation to lose weight and they did like wonderfully. They just looked at themselves in the mirror and they were like, fuck this, absolutely not. But sometimes you have people who would never think of themselves that way, you know?
And I don't think they should. I don't
Exactly.
think I don't think it's ever good to.
You have
I
you
think
have to
it's
find
good
your
to use.
motivation from other sources.
Yeah, I think it's good to use emotion as a motivation, like as the springboard, like a small springboard.
Yeah, it's the flint. It's the spark. Yeah.
Yeah, the spark, because I usually people that do it emotionally, they quit after like two weeks, if that.
Very true. Yeah.
It's kind of like a pre-workout. Like, oh, I'm gonna work out. Oh, no, I'm gonna pre-workout. I don't have my
Yeah.
emotion anymore. I'm not angry about it.
Right. Absolutely.
Or if you keep using that, like I'm disgusting. I guarantee you, even when you lose 20 or 30 pounds, you're still gonna be like, I'm disgusting, because you
Right.
you got you won't get that picture out of your head.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then, to be honest with you, when you actually do lose weight, you don't look like the same person. I don't think anybody's even seen pictures of me when I was overweight. I don't have the same facial structure. I look totally different than when I did, and it's kind of weird.
Right.
But sometimes when you look in the mirror, you're like, am I this person? Am I this? I kind of see glimpses of like, well, this is interesting. Like, who am I now versus who was I back then? It's not even the same person. So
Right.
just realize that you can whether you're the guy that wants to add 2 more inches to his biceps, or you're a person that wants to lose 20 pounds. You There should be no judgment, because you just have a goal to achieve, and you're going to find a way to do it, and hopefully you surround yourself with people who are supportive of either one, and
Right.
notice what your behavior is towards or getting away from that goal. And that's where I want you to leave with that idea. You have a goal. How is your behavior either getting you towards that goal or pulling you away from that goal?
Right.
So think about it that way, people.
And that's all we got to say about that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Find us on functionalmeatheads.com.
.com. You know where to find us. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if you're listening to us,
And,
you can tell your friends.
and
Functionalmeatheads.com.
hopefully you have
All your favorite places.
hopefully you have too much goal in your life.
Yes, so much goal.
So much goal. There you go. I like that. That's a good T-shirt.
I have so much goal.
So much goal.
I don't know if that would be considered bigoted, and then they would be like, dude.
We have too much goal.
Yeah. That's a Fedor. He had too much goal.
Too much goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go back with the MMA talk. Jesus.
Sorry. Gall. Anyway. Well.
Hit us up, people. Check out our Twitter feed. Learn yourself something.
Yes, indeed. It's good to be back. We'll talk to you next week, same time. And take care. Why not brush your hair?
Watch Regular Show.
Indeed. And time for a good old Ric Flair. Woo!
Old fashioned.